Hi everyone, welcome to We Belong Education video series. My name is Saurabh Malviya and today I want to talk to you about positive interactions with people in our lives, positive interaction with children and the staff members we work with. As I travel across Australia, people often ask me this question, and the question sounds something like, what should we say to this staff member, or what should we say to this child so our intentions are satisfied? A really good question to ask, by the way, but I want to take that focus away from what to say in a communication. I want to take that focus away from that question and actually propose a new question to all of you. And that question is, what should we listen for in a communication? So there are two different questions to operate out of. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example. As when we are talking to someone, we always have a pre-existing context. Okay, so if you're talking to a friend of yours and the friend is in need, your pre-existing context is that I like this guy, and if he needs my help, I'm going to help him. So when you're communicating, you wait for that pause and you say, hey, I can help you, or something in lines of that. The opposite is also true. If you don't like someone and you're talking to this person, or you are communicating with this person, you wait for that pause and you say, I disagree with that, or for some reason, if you agreed on certain days, you say, oh, you got me there, or something in lines of that. So what does that mean? That means that you and I, as human beings, always have this pre-existing context. Now, if the context is positive, what you are going to say is going to be positive things. If the context is negative, what you're going to say is going to be negative things. So what does that mean? That means that we don't need to actually focus on what to say, but what context through which we should listen, right? And given that we always have a context, you will always have a choice. Should you approach a conversation with a pre-existing context, or should you create a new context? Okay, so I'm gonna share with you an example from my recent experience from New South Wales. I was running this PD at this particular service, and I was asking them questions about self-awareness, self-worth, and self-management, and all that. And we had a discussion about this particular child who seems to have been struggling with self-management. Okay, very smart child, but for some reason he's unable to manage his anger. And what the things, how it manifests is that he pushes people, or he kicks people, and he disrespects them using bad words. Okay, so as they're sharing with me, I was very conscious of the fact that I'm creating a context for this individual. Okay, and I often do that. I'm often very conscious of the context through which I judge someone. Okay, so and then I stayed back at the service, which I do in most of my cases, and now I'm just observing. And as I'm observing, I see this child, and I talked to the director, and I said, "Hey, is it possible if I can have some sort of conversation with this kid?" And he said, "Yeah, let's do it." And I often do that. I love to have a chat with these individuals and try to explore. So the context which I create, see, there's already a context in my head, which is this kid is struggling with self-management. But I didn't want to approach this child with that story, because I thought the things which are going to come out of my mouth are not going to be powerful. Okay, so I created a context, and I'm going to invite you to do the same and try that next time when you're talking to a child who you already know, or a new child in your service, or even staff members. And the context which I often create is the context of exploration. I like to explore things, okay? Because when I'm exploring, I don't need to fix anything, because I'm exploring them. See, exploring would let me learn new things about certain situation, okay? So exploring is always, I have found exploring very powerful, okay? So I'll show you how I use the context of exploring in this communication, okay? So this child comes in, and I asked this question to this child. I said, when I was a kid, I often used to get angry. Do you get angry? And he says, yeah. I get angry. I'm like, oh, got it. What do you do when you get angry? And he says, I just get angry. I'm like, okay. Then I said, so what makes you angry? He says, oh, when people piss me off. Now, usually, this is when, stage one, this is when people jump in and they say, oh, honey, if they piss you off, next time if they piss you off, you can come to me. Or go to another educator or teacher or something. Or if they piss you off, count to 10 or something or the other. They try to solve, start fixing the problem, all right? But I didn't want to fix this problem. I just wanted to just explore more, right? So I said, oh, they piss you off. Okay. Tell me more about it. What do they do that pisses you off? Okay. And he says, well, they just make me angry. I'm like, okay. Stage number 2. They just make me angry. I'm like, okay, got it. Tell me more. What do they do that makes you angry? And then he says, stage number 3, he says, more specific. He says, oh, when they cheat or they keep me out of the game. I don't remember if he used the word exclude, but he said something in keep me out of the game. I'm like, got it. So I had to go stage 1, pissing off, make me angry, and the third one was more specific, which is when they cheat. I'm like, okay, got it. Now, when I'm talking, when I'm having this conversation, I'm actually standing beside this kid. Okay. Usually, when I'm having a when I'm trying to have a conversation with a kid who doesn't know much of me, I usually don't stand in front of that person. I stand next to them. And at the same time, so I was on his right hand side, and the director of the service was on the left hand side. I always say to the leaders of the service to stay with me so that they can hear what I'm talking about, right? So this child was in between us, and why I stayed next to that child was so that he can still see the game they were playing. They were playing basketball with a AFL ball, as you do. So he's sitting next to me, so he could still see his friend, so he didn't feel confronted if I blocked his view. More about proximity in a maybe later video, but I just wanted to create the scene for you. So we 3 are sitting side by side looking at that game. So when he told me about the third thing, which was they cheat or they keep me out of the game, I said, okay, I got it. And then I said, so tell me, when they keep you out of the game or when they cheat, who is doing the wrong thing here? And he said, they are doing the wrong thing. Like, I got it. So if they're doing the wrong thing, but who ends up getting into trouble? He says, and this is when he has this pause. He goes, I get into trouble. And I said, why? Because I start doing this or that, I'm like, God. Let me ask you another question. When they keep you out of the game or when they make fun of someone, who is doing the wrong thing? And he says the same thing, or they're doing the wrong thing. And I said, if they do the wrong thing, or who gets into trouble at the service? And he says, I get into trouble. So this is when I go to his level more, and I look at him and I went, so you are very smart here. You're smart enough to know that other people are doing the wrong thing, but you're not using that smartness to keep you out of the trouble or to get you out of the trouble. What can you do next time so that people who are doing the wrong thing get into trouble, not you? And that's when he had another pause. I prompted a few things which he could do. And that's when he said, okay, maybe I need to talk to a staff member. See, I didn't say any of this in the first question he asked, when he responded to my first question, when he says, when people piss me off. And I didn't say anything then, because that's quite broad. That didn't give me enough information to explore. But when he actually realized for himself, and therefore I keep saying self-realization, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he needed to realize for himself that although other people are doing wrong things, he's getting into trouble. And that was a breakthrough moment for him. I could see him smiling. realizing I do that. Yeah. And that is what I mean by listening for. What was I listening for in that communication was A, exploration, and B, what's going on here, right? Specifically, exploration is my bigger context, but what's going on with this case was more specific. And I did not know any of that. The director is sitting next to me, and he's also prompting things to him, so that because they know more about their service, so they can talk about more prompts, and it's better that they both talk more than I do, because I'm going to leave in the next couple of hours. And they had a great communication after that. So I did not approach that conversation thinking, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? Or what should I say? It all was guided by the context, exploring the stories, because this particular child is operating out of a particular story. A story is, it's not fair on me, or they are not fair on me. And if they are not fair on me, I'm going to just retaliate. Because I'm strong and I can retaliate, I'm going to retaliate. But what he is not present to is the impact it has on him. The impact of that story on him. The negative impact, which is getting into trouble. When he realized it, he realized for himself that my story puts me into trouble most of the days. How about I change something in that story? That is, yes, they are not fair, or the life is not fair, or the people are not fair, but I have a choice of either regulating my anger, or be a victim of that anger. Okay? And when he did that, that was a breakthrough for him, and I was quite happy with that conversation. And I often have these conversations with people in my lives, and also with children when I see them at the service. So I hope that next time when you talk to a child, that you actually look for not something which is superficial, but create a context, not the pre-existing context, but create a new context. And I'm giving you one, try that one up, the exploration one. And then try to find out what is actually at the bottom of it. What's the story? Now, you may not succeed that on the first time you try to have the conversation with this person, but maybe in 3-4 times you'll notice this person acting out in a certain given situation. Follow the pattern and try to give the prompts if you have to, because this kid happened to be in year 5, so of course more verbal than a prep, right? So you need to make the judgment on that. But I also want to add one more thing to it before I end this conversation, is that when you observe a breakthrough in that person, to acknowledge that person for that breakthrough, right? And then you give a high five and say, high five, and you say, you got it, right? Yeah. And when that happens more and more, always acknowledge, please, I'm requesting you, always acknowledge that thanks for trying. I know you might fail again, but keep trying. See, just because he realized that he has anger issues doesn't mean that he's gonna just fix it next day. It's gonna take some time, right? So I always say to people, next time, try it. I don't say next time, do this. I say next time, try it. Because let's face it, you and I have been trying to do a lot of things in our lives, health, food habits, and whatnot, and we not often succeed in that, right? So kids are also not gonna fail in trying to do the right thing. So as long as he verbalized it for himself, that I should do this because I don't want to be in trouble, and he creates a new story, that's amazing. Okay, that's step number 1. Step number 2 is, okay, now you try it, and I'll be with you. And if he fails again, you have the same conversation again, and keep trying. Just like every other human needs trying, children too, they are humans as well. So you be their support. So I hope that this video helps you in having a positive interaction next time when you have a conversation with a child or with staff members in your service. So some of the takeaways from this conversation: firstly, please acknowledge that you and I listen to each other from a pre-existing context. So you can work on that, okay? Just be aware of that. Secondly, if there is a context, why not to have a context of love, care, and belonging? In my case, it's exploration, and I'm always looking for opportunities in that exploration of where can I love someone, where can I How can I give sense of belonging, or how can I care for someone? Okay, so these are the two things. And the last thing is when someone realizes for themselves, children, instead of you keep telling them what to do, then you tell them, try it, try doing this, try doing that. Okay. Thank you very much for allowing me to contribute to your life again. Thanks for the feedback which I've been getting, and keep them coming. If you have any questions when you try these things, and if it goes down south, by all means contact me through my Facebook page or through my website at webelongeducation.com, or on Facebook page, which is We Belong Education. You can even email me at info@webelongeducation.com. I would love to know your stories, and when I listen to you, I'll explore your story and see how can I love, care, and give you a sense of belonging. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Try these things out, and if you have any questions, let me know. I love you. Goodbye.